Welcome, everyone, to the next installment of the Collaborative Circle, presented to you by the Long Island Collaborative Divorce Professionals. I'm joined today by my friend and colleague, David Filer, who is a collaborative divorce attorney. David, welcome.
Thanks for having me. It's nice to be here.
Great to have you. David, why don't you tell us a little bit about your practice?
I'm a mediator, a trained mediator, and a collaborative divorce attorney. I don't do divorce litigation. I mainly focus on mediation and collaborative divorce because I think that is the way to go in these situations for, I think, some of the reasons we'll talk about. But it's just, it is by far, I think, the best way to go through the divorce process.
Absolutely. I agree. I agree. And that brings us to our topic today, which is co-parenting after divorce. And so really, my first question to you, David, would be to get your thoughts on how the litigation process, traditional litigation, differs from the collaborative process when it comes to co-parenting.
Absolutely. And I think there's a world of difference here. I think the important thing about a collaborative divorce is that the parties involved determine their own future and the future of their family and the future of their family post-divorce, right? We always say that a couple can divorce legally, right? You can become unmarried as a couple. You no longer are tied together in that way. However, you never divorce as parents, right? You're always the parents to your children forever. So the model that we try to use focuses on that future, that post-divorce future, and what that means for that family going forward as a separated family, right? Kids often spending time with both parents, et cetera, sharing time. And to contrast that with litigation, if a divorce is achieved through litigation, the couple is essentially turning over their decision-making to a court, to a judge, and to the lawyers, frankly, who
Right.
often know very little about that family's situation, their past, their future, the things that are important to them. And even though a couple maybe has decided that it's time for a divorce because they have differences that can't keep them together, they still will know what's best for their family and for their kids, as opposed to a judge who, frankly, has very little time to learn about the details of that family. And when decisions are made in litigation, they are final, especially if there's a trial, a judge hands a decision, that is it. You're done. You get a divorce decree, and it tells you going forward how you're sharing your children.
Right.
As opposed to a mediated divorce or collaborative divorce, the parties themselves are deciding how they wish to go forward. And the great thing, that also means that these agreements can evolve, they can change. You're not necessarily stuck with an agreement that you make today. Perhaps the children are very young when you're divorcing now. You might agree that 3 years from now, you'll come back and you'll revisit that agreement that involves sharing. Maybe maybe the schedule will be set up differently, or maybe you'll talk about some different type of schooling, et cetera. But that type of divorce, a collaborative divorce, allows you that flexibility. And I think that's what we want for couples, because life changes and kids grow, they get older.
Right. And to that point, actually, I want to share something that we've been trying in some of the collaborative cases that I've been working on, this idea of a trial period for a co-parenting schedule, to actually live under the terms of your potential agreement for a month or 2 months, and then come back to another session and see how it's going.
It's a great idea. And again, we're all human, right? So we don't necessarily know what will work. We've all had experiences with kids where you think one thing that will work, it turns out it really doesn't. And so sometimes there has to be trial and error. And we encourage all the folks that we work with, and I know, Jackie, you do this too. We encourage everyone to keep an open mind, to be flexible, that yes, we want them to come to an agreement that's best for all of the people in the family, the kids, the adults. but we want them to be open to changing that if necessary, right? Nothing is set in stone. And that's the big, as I said, that's the big contrast with litigation, where you're sort of stuck. A lot of people think that the court offers a solution. Well, I suppose it does, right? There's finality there, but you're essentially being told what to do going forward with your family.
Exactly. And sometimes, I don't mean to interrupt you, but sometimes in not a lot of detail, really just bare bones.
Right.
Exactly. You get the children on such and such a day, and that's not always workable.
Right. Absolutely. And we've seen, obviously, with agreements that we've worked on with folks, again, they're unique to that family, depending on the situation, perhaps the living situation, what their extended family looks like, their childcare issues, et cetera, their educational demands. I mean, all these things can be factored in, factors that are unique to that family. And courts just don't do that. They're not set up for it. I'm not blaming the courts, but it's just an entirely different situation. And you're paying, the litigants are paying attorneys who often are charging quite a bit of money, but don't necessarily have a whole lot of time to get into the intricate details of the relationship and what things should look like going forward.
Right. Much easier accomplished when you're sitting around a table in an office setting and having, a family support specialist as part of that team to help flesh out all of those details and issues that the couple might not even be thinking about.
Absolutely. And obviously that team approach is what our group really strives for. And all of the folks that are part of our group are specialists in their own ways. And of course, we try to, utilize that specialty, right? I mean, they bring their specific knowledge about, mental health to the table, about finances to the table. And of course, some people need more of these things than others, but again, it's all adaptable. And the team approach, where you have several people trying to understand that family situation, can really help the couple come to an agreement that is tailored for them. I mean, and again, opposite of what a court is going to do, right?
Complete opposite.
So,
yep. And you and I both know that, having been litigators and having some courtroom experience, we know the reality of it, because sometimes it's quite a misconception among our clients, I think.
Of course. And listen, nobody plans to get divorced. So a lot of people don't take a whole lot of time to sort of learn about divorce until suddenly they may find themselves in that situation. And I think we still, many of us think that when you're going through a divorce, you must go to court. You must hire a litigator. It is a battle. It is a war. And of course, our approach is the opposite of that. And I'm not saying, certainly there are situations where court becomes necessary. And there are situations where a collaborative process or a mediation process may not be appropriate, right? But if it is appropriate, it is so superior for folks to utilize this type of expertise. And I think part of our goal is to sort of educate people that you simply don't have to go to court, and you can get your divorce accomplished in a ultimately a civil and reasonable way without setting foot in a courtroom and spending a tremendous amount of money in a process in which you have no control, essentially.
Absolutely. That's our point in doing these videos, is to try to get the word out there and share what we know, what our experience has been with families who could really benefit from this process.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things we do, and Jackie, you've probably talked about this in some of the other interviews you've done, but when anyone calls any one of us in this group, whether it's one of the attorneys or one of the financial people, mental health people, I mean, the first thing we sort of do is some questions to kind of learn about what the what's happening in that particular family, and determine if a collaborative divorce is the appropriate pathway to,
right.
to go down. So, you know, it doesn't hurt to just call and talk with any one of us, and we can, you know, give people a bit more information and kind of give a little roadmap about what this stuff looks like.
Right, right. That's a great point. That's a great point, David. Thank you.
Of course.
And on that note, I think that's a good way to end this chat, is to invite people that if they'd like to learn more or talk about their situation and see if this might be the right approach for them, to please reach out to any of us in the LICDP. We'd be so happy to talk to you about this further. And thank you so much, David, for your time today.
Thanks for including me in this conversation, and it's great to be here and talk about collaborative divorce. Thanks again.
Yes, thank you.